Hello, welcome to the Transfer Lowdown Show. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
And here we are at the Pear at Parley, sat outside in the garden with an alcohol-free beer. It's in West Parley, so if you wanted to come down, just head towards the crossroads and then head up Christchurch Road as if you're going to the Dudsbury Golf Club, about 30 seconds up the road on the left-hand side. You'll see the signs, come in for a pint, great food, massive garden as well with pods. Hopefully one day we might be able to do, what do you call it?
Pod in a pod.
Pod in a pod. And look, huge place, and it's amazing in the summer as well. So you get down here and have a pint. There are a few planes that you might hear during this recording, but let's see about these transfer targets that Bournemouth are looking at. And look, we've had a couple of lowdown shows where we've talked about Ethan Laird, James Hill, and now those are confirmed signings. Transfer activity for the last sort of 10 days or so, it's been very quiet, hasn't it? But now, with a few days to go, there's some rumours starting to ramp up, aren't there?
Yeah, it always seems to get like this, doesn't it? Because I think teams then start getting maybe a little bit desperate, and then the selling club starts, negotiating a little bit more. Whereas at the start of the window, you're very much trying to palm everyone away. I think it's interesting. We'll come on to it, but it seems like 1 minute, he's definitely coming. Next minute, we haven't even bid for him. So everyone plays their cards a little bit close to their chest. That they obviously, I think you've got to take bits with a pinch of salt. When teams go, he's not for sale. Yeah. Everyone's for sale. At the right price, so we'll see.
It's not exactly a trade secret that Scott Parker's also looking to bolster his squad, is it? So, we are going to make some signings.
Yeah, and I think the dip in form as well has come at that time where he thinks, if I don't now, do you know what I mean? It's it's probably, in a weird way, it's the best time to have a bad run, because you can bolster a little bit. And I think it's a weird for a Bournemouth fan, but we've probably got some power and some authority in the Championship as one of the clubs that are obviously going for promotion and could also pay decent wages for these sort of players, the sort of players that we'll get onto that we're targeted. So it's a few areas that we need to address, but we've got a good squad, so only a few bits, I think.
Yeah, it's just a case of bolstering our squad for that promotion push, and somehow, Tom, despite our poor form, we're still right in the mix. The chasing teams, that chasing pack, are dropping points all over the place. This division is mental. It
is, and it always has been at the Championship, because it's such a... I always say there's 24 teams in the league. I reckon about 20 think they can get top 6 at the start of the season, and that's why so many managers go. And
who was that? Do you remember when we did the tier list at the start of the season? We had all these comments from irate EFL fans. There was a Birmingham fan, wasn't there?
A Birmingham fan saying about their business and Lee Bowyer, and we'll be pushing for top 6. Outrageous that you put us bottom half. I think they're 17th at the moment, something like that. So,
but that's the mentality, isn't it?
But but I can see why they were saying that, because you'd expect Birmingham to be up, but there's so many clubs you feel could push, and then there's always a few surprise packages. You probably look at Coventry maybe this season, even Huddersfield. It is a competitive league, and I do think we are getting away with it a little bit, which you got to take it. You got to ride your luck in this league, and fortunately for us, having lost a couple of games, a few of the chasing pack have let themselves down lately. QPR and West Brom again. So at the moment, it feels like 2 of the 3, doesn't it, including Blackburn and obviously Fulham, but QPR and West Brom are hanging around, Borough coming up, so it's going to be a ride to the end, mate.
It's going to be a ride to the end, and you can enjoy it all on Back of the Net. So we'll be doing a special transfer show on Monday night. Can't wait for that. The second look, and then straight after, a bumper transfer show where hopefully we'll chat to a few people, bringing you the stories. We've got birds flying about. Is that a goose or something? This is like tropical climes here.
Brilliant, isn't it? It's like we've taken a little break away.
It is. And it's going to be a big one on Monday. There's going to be plenty between now and then to talk about on Back of the Net. So if you haven't, I just feel sick saying this.
Just hit the subscribe button already. If you haven't done it, why haven't you done it? And also chuck us a like, because that gets us seen by more people, and hit that little bell, and then you'll know when we're on. I mean, we've just told them we're on Monday, to be fair, but just in case they forget.
Just in case.
It can't be as bad as last time when it's Shane Long. We managed to get, make a big show for Shane Long coming. It's going to be better than that, trust me.
Yeah, it's going to be. Right then, off the pitch, I suppose, is one of the biggest stories, and that's Andy Howe leaving. Eddie Howe's nephew, who is involved in recruitment. He was one of the head recruiters, was he? Or what's the deal with that? I'm not too sure what he was.
Yeah, well, he was obviously heavily involved in all the recruitment side of things. So for him to go in this in a window seems a little bit odd, doesn't it?
Well, odd timing, given the fact it's so close towards the end of the window. Yeah.
It does, but you never know behind the scenes if they were kind of prepared for this and kind of knew when Eddie went to Newcastle, this potentially could happen. I'm sure, they're not stupid. I'm sure they've, got things in place. And you like to think kind of targets and players that we're after, we've already sought out.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we suddenly start looking at someone different at this stage. So hopefully it won't cause too many problems, and hope he does all right there. But obviously they're related, but it's obviously another one that Eddie trusts, wants to get him on side there. So good luck to him.
I'm not sure it's been officially revealed yet, but he's probably going to go to Newcastle. Yeah. I'm absolutely certain. And Newcastle have been working hard behind the scenes to improve their recruitment. And look, he's expected to join his uncle on Tyneside, and he has been responsible and involved in a number of key signings for AFC Bournemouth. So he certainly goes with some very good wishes from all us Bournemouth fans. Thank you so much. But we move on, as we always do, and we are looking at some names that, some of them that we've been linked with, we just instantly were like, no way. We'll talk about all of them. But first one we're going to talk about is Joe Rothwell. But you know what? Even over the last 12 hours or so, it seems to be that Tony Mowbray has put a dampener on that potential signing.
I think if you're Tony Mowbray, you're thinking the last thing I want to do as a manager is lose one of my key players, first of all, but also lose them to a direct promotion rival. So I think if he were to come out and say, yeah, we're open to offers, that would be madness. I think whatever the situation, he has to come out and say there's no way he's going to Bournemouth. He has to do that. But I believe that if you've got a player that's out of contract at the end of the season,
well, exactly, yeah,
and someone's offering you a few £1 million, the Blackburners are going to be looking at that, but they'll be looking two ways. They'll either be thinking we take a gamble and think he could be key to us getting promoted, and then he'll either sign a new deal or we'll get some money for him anyway, we'll be fine because we'll be going up the Premier League. Or they think, just in case we don't, we can't afford to lose out on a few £1 million. So it's going to be, I think it'll be a little bit more upstairs, but so it doesn't sound like we're the only club after him. It seems like, which to be fair, if he's a top player, he's out of contract in the season, a few will be sniffing around.
Well, it sounds like there was a club that put in an offer for almost double what we did. However, that hasn't been reported, and that's what he told reporters on his Zoom call conference. And why has that not been reported? Why has Bournemouth interest been reported? It seems to be that either way, they don't really want to let him go. But he did say earlier last week that if players aren't, committing to Blackburn by signing new contracts, they probably will be out the door. So, there's a lot of decision for the club to make, also for the player to make as well. And does he believe in the process? If he does leave, that'll be quite revealing, I think. Yeah,
listen, he might. We don't know. He might be knocking on. He can knock on Mowbray's door and say, "Look, you got to let me go. I want to go," and that'll change everything. Or he could say, "I don't want to go." It's all depends on that. But as I say, I try and take it with a pinch of salt, because Tony Mowbray, if he wants to get the most money possible for Joe Rothwell, the best thing to do would be saying, "I don't know why Bournemouth." We're talking about Bournemouth because other clubs have bid more to try and push us to bid more. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be like that till the end. If we're interested in him and we make a serious offer, I think it's going to be hard for him to turn it down. Having said that, direct promotion rival, I think if it was a mid-table Championship side, they would probably sell. But he's a good player. To be fair, I think we could do with other options, but he'd be a good bit of business.
Well, yeah, he's played centre mid, attacking mid, and also defensive as well. Mainly as a number 8 though this season. Scored more goals from defensive midfield actually than he has in any other position this season. But he's been involved in all but one match for Rovers this season, and in many ways he's gone under the radar a bit until fairly recently, because Brereton Diaz has been taking the limelight, and probably rightly so, for all his goals that he scored.
Yeah, that's the thing, he's scoring so many goals for him. I mean, quite a lot of the time you see kind of players that are scoring goals near the bottom of the league, they end up, their contributions to the team's goals are like half, like 50%. But I think Brereton Diaz is like 40-odd%. I mean, and that's a team that are doing well. Yeah. So they're so reliant on him, which, like you say, is probably taking the gloss off Rothwell's performances. Having said that, they won the other night without Rothwell, so that might be something they think they can function without him. That was probably weirdly a good thing for us if we are after him. And it's a difficult one. It's all going to be, we had a similar thing with Dan Gosling in the sense that we sold him to a rival, but it was different in the sense that we weren't using him anyway. We felt like we had better options in that position. Rothwell's key for him. So it'll be an interesting one. I think if I had to say kind of a percentage, I'm quite 50-50 on whether that'll happen. I really can't call it because of the things I've discussed there. I think it's going to be hard for them to reject certain things, but also hard for them to let him go to a rival. So really up in the air, this one.
You can't call it, even though Mowbray said it is not going to happen. Is that just media talk? Is that just to put teams like us off the scent?
He's got to say it. I've heard that loads of times. I think DiCanio said that Richie was definitely not going.
True.
You've got to say that to get as most money. If they said we want to sell him because he's not, Bournemouth will come in with such a low bid because they'll go, well, we know you want to sell him. So I think you're seeing it with Newcastle at the moment. Everyone's inflating their prices because they know Newcastle can pay it. So he's going to say that anyway, but. Again, for the supporters and stuff like that, he's saying things that will turn on him if they do sell him. So I do believe Tony Mowbray's confident, but it'll be if upstairs take it out of his hands, mate. So it's an interesting one. I'd like to get him, but I don't think it would. I wouldn't be devastated if we didn't, because I think there's other areas that would be more crucial for us actually.
So it's always nice to get the thoughts from Jacob Tanswell from Dorset Live. Make sure you give him and his tweets a follow on Cherries_live. You can see the Twitter handle at the bottom of the screen there, and these were his thoughts on that potential signing from Blackburn Rovers.
I think if Blackburn didn't go on this run of form, I know they lost to Hull, I think he probably would be a Bournemouth player by now. But the fact is they found themselves in the promotion, not only in the promotion, contenders, but in the automatic slots now as well. And I think that's probably restricting Bournemouth from getting Rothwell, because Blackburn are adamant they don't want to sell to a promotion rival, where if they were 7th, 8th, 9th, I think they'd probably take the money because his contract obviously expired at the end of the season. I reported and I said that I think Joe Rothwell's family is keen to move down south a few weeks ago. He's not signed a contract at the moment, and Tony Mowbray at the start of the window said if anyone doesn't sign a contract or is not committed to the long-term future, they'd have to sell, or they certainly be more than receptive to selling. So this is an unusual situation, and in any other circumstance, they probably weren't expecting to be where they are on the table. If they're 10th, 11th, they'd probably let him go by now, and Joe Rothwell would be a player. He'd be starting in midfield against Barnsley on Saturday. But the problem is that it's going to be so difficult to get him out of Blackburn, because they're weighing up things. They either want the money, or they're thinking, let's just cut our losses. Let's get him promoted. Let's help him, or he can help us get promoted. And in the consequence of that, we are weakening Bournemouth's promotion bid. So we've got all these factors, like Bournemouth are doing with Tom Lawrence, that they've got to weigh up. And it's going to be really difficult. I think the negotiations are going to be fraught over the next couple of days. And it's up to Bournemouth now, with the haggling, astute recruitment team, to lower that price and to get him out of there, because it's going to be difficult. And Blackburn, if they do sell him, it's going to be through gritted teeth.
Brilliant to hear from Jacob, and we'll be getting his nuggets of thought and knowledge after each of these players that we're going to discuss. The next one that we've been rumoured with, and there have been a few that have, is a player that's had 42% goal participation for Derby County this season. He can play as a second striker, he can play as a left winger, he scored a worldie against us that you didn't see.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Tom Lawrence.
Yeah, Tom Lawrence, I mean, hell of a player, like you say, with them goal contributions. And I mean, Derby will be absolutely desperate not to let him go, but we all know the situation with Derby and the administrators. And I think because Rooney suddenly made them, and Derby, they're almost like they can stay up. There's
like 8 points
something
behind.
like that. They're not even bottom of the league.
No.
So that might make the administrators and that. He's so crucial to them that it actually might be worth more money if they keep him, because he could help stay up. It's a difficult one. I personally think if you want Tom Lawrence, you can get Tom Lawrence. Because
I presume administrators, right? I don't know this for a fact, but they must have like football heads. They can't just be worrying about the financial side of things, because they must be surely weighing up the fact that they could stay up and they're in a predicament whereby it isn't confirmed. If it was, it'd probably be a fire sale. But there have been bids from, alleged interest, from Queen's Park Rangers, which apparently the administrators are brushing off. But surely there is a price for him, and given that they need to get the money in, then there is a price that he'll go at. Yeah,
they're probably looking at him, and to be fair, these administrators are probably in discussions with Rooney and stuff like that as well, and thinking, he is your main man. If we can get rid of a few of the others, Jagielka's gone, and get some of the others off the wage bill, we might be able to keep hold of Tom Lawrence, who's our best player, potentially. But I just still think, with the problems they're in financially, if you go in with a decent offer, and when I say I'm talking $500,000, something like that, I mean really for the problems they're in, and him off the wage bill, would be one of the highest earners. I think you can get him. I really do.
Why wouldn't we do that if we know that we could sell him for $5 million minimum in a season anyway? Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I honestly, I can't believe he's still there at this stage of the window, to be honest. I thought there'd be so many clubs after him. The fortunate thing is, as long as a Premier League club don't come in, or Fulham, then we're in prime position, really, will probably offer the most money for him, for his wages, and we're probably the most attractive in terms of, we're going for promotion.
Yeah.
He's also got links with, obviously he's Welsh, and
Yeah.
we've got Chris Mepham, we've got David Brooks, we might have another lad that we're talking about in a bit, so that does play into it. We saw with when Wiltshire come, Bedeck Afobe's best mate, all that stuff, it does play into it. So yeah, it's a weird one. I think if you make a decent bid for him, you get him, and he could play off, as you mentioned, he can play off the left, play off the right. I think originally he was kind of more of a central midfielder, like an 8. He's played as a 10. He's played up top for him, so he offers you so much. And I mean, I really like him, mate. He's the one I want, because I think he can cover a few areas, and he's got a bit of, what's the word, kind of creative nous that I think sometimes we saw recently in games where we're struggling to break teams down. You need that little bit of magic sometimes, and I think he could offer us that. So I'd love to get him, but we'll wait and see on that one. I wouldn't be surprised if a few other clubs go in as well.
Absolutely. So Derby got rid of Sam Baldock, David Marshall, Dylan Williams, Jordan Brown, Graham Shinney. I think Shinney went for like £30,000 or something ridiculous. And also, as you say, Phil Jagielka. Queen's Park Rangers allegedly in the past sort of 24-40 hours are reportedly turning their attention to other options, with talks apparently not progressing to sign Lawrence. So we'll see how that pans out, but it's always interesting to hear what Jacob thinks.
I think it will be it's going to be difficult, because obviously with the administrators and all that comes with it. But you've seen with Graham Shinney, what did they sell him for? £30,000. Derby are in the financial abyss, or they're going to be in a matter of weeks. So selling them is unfortunately what they have to do. I'm not sure if Tom Lawrence wants that. I think he's a captain, he's a talisman for Derby. In November, he was talking about staying until the end of the season, but unfortunately, circumstances, kind of dictate that he has to leave. And Bournemouth at the moment look like they want it. They're the front runners, but there's a lot of other clubs interested. So it's going to be one of them. Same with Dembele. If Bournemouth have got to put a bid in, but also put a proposal in for him. He's on £35,000 a week reportedly. So Bournemouth have to weigh out whether they're prepared to pay that, and for next year as well. If Bournemouth get promoted, do they judge him as Premier League quality? If they don't get promoted and the wage bill will inevitably have to be cut, will Tom Lawrence be expendable? Do they really need to take on that fee for how many years do they need to take on his wages for? So that's all these questions that are going to be asked to the recruitment team in the next couple of days. And when push comes to shove, Tom Lawrence is a player that can deliver. But if you ask a lot of Derby fans, he's inconsistent and tends to go missing in certain stages of the season. So I think Lawrence will be a good addition. Where he'll play, off the wing or in the advanced number 8 role, I think he'll be effective in both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so there we go. There's a couple of teams that are looking to capitalise on Derby's financial woes, and look, it would be great to see Tom Lawrence in a red and black shirt. Now, Tom alluded to the fact that there could be a little Welsh contingent, and Kieffer Moore, mate.
I want him. He's the one at the start of the season. I said, could we get Kieffer Moore? I watched him in the Euros and I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was a handful. I can't remember who he scored against. It might have been Serbia or something like that. I can't remember. But he was kind of playing, as that main man. They had kind of Bale and Ramsey and that floating around him. But I really like him. I've always really liked him. He's been at Yeovil as well, so he's been down south. I think he was at Dorchester as well, young. So he's been down there, and I think he's a type of player that a lot of people say plan B, but he's also someone that could play alongside Dom. Dom can sit off him.
Yeah, exactly. And he scored 20 goals last season. This season's not been too productive for him. But, by the way, Cardiff Insider, a Twitter account, saying it's virtually a done deal. Cardiff just want all the money up front. But how true that is, we don't know. But we have got no depth up front at AFC Bournemouth, and he would be ideal to complement, or as you say, a replacement for Dom if needed. Yeah,
definitely. He could play that lone role, but he could also play up alongside him. He offers you something different. He offers you an aerial presence. He offers you championship experience. I think he offers you everything you need. I think you can get him because I think Cardiff again. They're not going to go down, in my opinion. They're also definitely not going to go up. So, for them, if Kieffer Moore's probably thinking as well, like you say, he scored a lot of goals last season. They were still nowhere near it in terms of going up. And he's probably thinking, I want to keep in the Wales squad. This might be my last chance to maybe push on and go for it. Bournemouth for a team that I can maybe progress with. And I do like him. I really do like him.
Was there a valuation of 10 million though or something originally? But that's going to come down.
It ain't going to be 10 million. No,
we would never
chance.
Pay that.
Well, I've seen 10 million and then I saw another one of 2 million.
Yeah, well, exactly. So and that's the kind of sort of level we're at now. And there's a kind of link with all these signings that we're being linked with, isn't there? They're all kind of low risk, low fee players, and ones that are coming towards the end of their contracts. Not too sure on Kieffer Moore's situation with his contract. Is that?
No, I'm not too sure actually. I haven't heard that he's out of contract, so I assume he's not. But I think probably somewhere in the middle. You offer between 2 and 5 million, and you may be given an incentive if we get promoted. Then we'll give you a bit, which is probably what's going on. I think with a lot of these players, there will probably be clauses where they get a little bit more if we were to get in promotion, which makes sense. But yeah, I think it for Kieffer Moore, it makes sense. For Cardiff, it kind of makes sense. Yeah. For Bournemouth, it makes sense. Get it done. I want it. We've taken Kenwyn from Cardiff. Now it's time to take Kieffer Moore. I mean, imagine that. 2 times get promoted from the Champions League. Championship, we get Kenwyn Jones from Cardiff and then Kieffer Moore from Cardiff. It will be like a bit of a running theme. But I would really like him, and I think it's one that could possibly get done. Yeah,
the news is going to come as a blow to Steve Morrison, who's frequently he's sort of played down the talk of Moore departing. He said that ultimately every window it is a conversation. It's something that's just made up in the press, because until someone gives us an actual phone call, it feels like a bit of a pointless conversation. We keep having the same conversation. Nothing changes ever. As far as I'm concerned, he says, Kieffer hasn't knocked on my door, or an agent hasn't phoned me up, or the board. So there you go. So those are our thoughts. What about Jacob?
It was all quiet on Cardiff's front. Cardiff hadn't heard of any interest, or very vague interest. 10 million was the asking price at the start of the window. Wolves got put off by that asking price in the summer. And I thought after Chris Wood left, there's been mentions of Burnley potentially using Moore as a replacement. And I thought that's probably kind of it for Bournemouth, really, with Kieffer Moore. I know Andy Carroll's been linked recently, and that's signalled the end of it. But today, big developments. I think Chris Temple was the first one to publish the news. Bournemouth are bargaining very, very well. I know I keep talking about the recruitment staff, but Bournemouth do manage to haggle very, very well. Or in recent times, they have. And I think that could be the same transpiring with Kieffer Moore. I think he's one that I've got a gut feel will happen. It's an odd signing in a way. I've written about it before. He's 29, 6'4", probably not as multifaceted as a Scott Parker striker or what Scott Parker wants. But in terms of a short term, and I know Parker doesn't like it, but a plan B, he'd be superb. I'm not sure if you agree, but in terms of everything, I'm not sure if he'll play from the start. For the Kieffer Moore, he probably is expecting to play alongside Solanke. So it's been really interesting to see how Parker uses him. Is it going to be a 3-5-2 system with Ethan Laird coming in at right back? Is it going to be off the bench? Is it going to be even Bournemouth change the approach and they start going a little bit more direct? It's going to be really interesting to see, should they get a deal over the line? And judging by recent developments now, they should. And I expect them to. What's interesting, I spoke to a Cardiff journalist and he said it's all gone quiet on from their side. For the last couple of days, they've been dismissing it. Nothing going on with Kieffer, and today he's not heard anything back. So take that how you want.
Yeah, brilliant to hear what Jacob, and do follow him, by the way. He's got his own personal Twitter. Do search for Jacob Tanswell, but Cherries Live is where it's at. Right then, I must admit that the ones that we spoke about, I know a bit about. I don't know much about Siriki Dembele. I mean, you've got a chant prepared already, which maybe it'll be brought out at some point in time in the future. You don't know, but Peterborough United have dismissed nonsense rumours linking him with other clubs, but he is a player that's been linked with the Cherries.
He's a forward, a Scottish forward, Siriki Dembele, a Dembele. Yeah, I want that to happen, mate. I want that in the away end at Sheffield away or something. No, he's an interesting one because I think for Peterborough, they're in a relegation dogfight. They can't afford to let big players go, so they're going to be upstairs. They'll be thinking he's crucial to keeping us up. So it's a real gamble for them. Do we cash in now? Because Bournemouth will probably get someone else if we don't let him go now, and then we might have missed out on a few mil and then get relegated. Or do they think he's that important that with him we'll stay up? Yeah, that's what it's probably going to come down to. Interesting, it looks like we have made bids and they've been knocked back.
Yeah, up to 2 million, is it right?
Yeah, I think that's which I think's about fair. You offer them a couple of million, and they've probably got a kind of a point where Scott and Bournemouth probably thinking we'll get to a point and then we won't go any higher. He's someone that we've been linked with a little. We were linked with him in the summer. Him and Johnson Clark Harris, the other Peterborough attacker, and Dembele looks like he's almost in the Jamal Lowe mould in the sense that he can play through in the middle. He can also play off wide areas. Got a bit of pace about him. He's still relatively young, so he would be one more that I think would be a progression that even if he weren't to go up, he's going to come. He's Kieffer Moore, Tom Lawrence. I look at as kind of trying to get us over the line. Siriki Dembele, I look at more as he will be there for the future anyway, and he would come in and I think offer you a bit more squad depth. I don't think he'd come in and walk into the team.
And rumours are always heightened when players are left out, and he wasn't in the squad for the match against Birmingham the other day, and the Posh went 2-0 up, and I think Birmingham came back to draw 2-2 in that one, but that always heightens the intensity of the rumours, doesn't it, when players are left out. But Peterborough United boss Darren Ferguson has completely dismissed it and said he was simply injured, so absolutely nothing to do with a pending transfer to AFC Bournemouth or elsewhere. And Barry Fry, as Tom said, he's confirmed that the Cherries had made 2 bids for the 25-year-old, but both have been rejected. So if you're going to place this on a tier list of how important this player is to us, would this sort of be slap bang in the middle? Like, not, it would be nice, but not necessarily needed. Yeah,
I mean, I'd certainly take it. I think he'd be a good player for the squad, and I think we're obviously, with what happened with Brooksy and obviously Stanislas out, I think he offers you obviously good options from wide and could also play up front, as I say. But I think the other players that we've just mentioned, I would probably prefer. Yeah. But maybe that's me being a bit blind in the fact that I haven't seen as much of Dembele. But certainly wouldn't turn him down, and if we think he's the right man, then I'm all for it. But he's not someone, I don't know, we've bid a few million by the sounds of it. Yeah. I don't see him being 5 million plus worth it at the moment, looking at his record. So we'll see. But he would definitely offer depth. I just probably haven't seen enough of him, to be fair. I mean, when we played Peterborough at their place, I remember them being very much, they got it, hanging on for a point, and you didn't really see that attacking intent from them. So, but he scored goals from last season to help promotion. He scored a few this season, been involved in a few. So, yeah, we'll see. And that I wouldn't be surprised if we go one more, maybe a little bit more bid. But if that's rejected, I don't think we'll go back.
Tig sent a text the AFC Bournemouth to our little WhatsApp group earlier, saying, I get a feeling that all the players that we've been linked with are not actually the ones who will sign. I mean, do you reckon there are going to be some other names that just take us completely by surprise? Because, what is it, 5 names? We're going to cover the others shortly, but do you think there could be some that would just come out of the blue?
Potentially, because I think they will already be working on the targets they want to get. Yeah. But there may be some that we have just literally not heard of. Did I think we're going to sign Ethan Laird?
No,
never heard of it. Did I think we're going to sign James Hill?
No. And all the sort of transfers that we have had have never been like. Do you remember ones like Chris Mepham? Like, we were linked with him ages ago, and then it finally happened. And they're, under Eddie, they were seemingly well known, and it was so clear who we wanted and who we didn't want. At some point, we probably will sign Damari Gray, based on the fact that we've been linked with him for years. But under Parker, it's been different. And it's been literally last minute, bang, and it's just been done. And we seem to be very much under the radar. These ones, I think the nature of deadline day means that you are going to be linked with a number of players, and maybe these aren't the ones that will be pulled off. Maybe we will get others. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. I think what happens is, because Eddie Howe was with us for such a period of time, that media and things like that, they know the players that Eddie's been linked with in the past, and it comes back up. And whereas where Scott hadn't been with us for too long, I think that's what keeps it a little bit under the radar, which is nice. As you say, you keep getting linked with the same players if you've got the same manager, because I can't believe Newcastle hasn't signed Damari Gray yet, to be honest. But so you never know. As I say, I don't think the other 2 that we've signed this window really were that rumoured. So that will be interesting. And you never know these days as well. If you're after someone, you might say to your team, put out that we want this one, because then that club will think, if they don't sign in, they'll sign that one. We need to accept the bid. There's all this kind of what's the word? But there's all this kind of conjecture, because everyone's trying to play mind games with each other, aren't they? So it's interesting. It wouldn't shock me, but I'd like to think one of these that we're discussing might get over the line, mate.
Do you think our boardroom is as desperate as what it was on Sunderland Till I Die?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Chucking in last minute bids.
I mean, I'll take Will Grigg, to be fair, because it's a good song, isn't it? But yeah, I'm hoping there's not too much panic, because we're still in a good position. We still got a good squad. We've still got players to come back. But if we can just add a few little bits, might get us over the line.
Let's see what Jacob then had to say about Siriki Dembele.
earlier this afternoon, I got told that Dembele wasn't going to be in the Peterborough squad, and it's the classic subplot, isn't it, to a deadline day saga. It's all going to build up to that deadline day. Of course, I think he's probably wanting to leave, judging by he's not signed a new contract yet, which again expires at the end of the season. Bournemouth had 2 bids rejected last week. One was £1 million. I think they quickly afterwards, after they got rejected, they upped it to 1.5 million. And for Bournemouth, they're probably thinking that's a fair price because his contract expires. Like I said, Peterborough, they probably do need the money. And right now, Peterborough are in a difficult situation because they are towards the bottom of the Championship, and they currently see more value in keeping him because he's so integral to their safety.
Brilliant. Hopefully we'll catch a word actually with Jacob on transfer deadline day itself, because it's a bumper show on Back of the Net that we're going to have. And you know what? Before we go on to our next signing, there's a plane, and we always love plane spotting. Tom, do you know what one of them is?
I mean, it's a big one. Does that do? Oh, there we go. Do you know what that is?
Mate, I've got the Flight Radar app here, and I can tell you exactly what it is. Here we go. There it is, just going over our heads there.
What is this?
Flight rate. It's a private jet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and that's the current speed. It's amazing.
I'm bored already.
Let's move on and talk football then. Josh Koroma. How much do you know about him?
Very little.
Yeah, me too.
Very little. Is it another one? Maybe a bit like we said about Dembele. That's a forward that can play out wide as well. So yeah, it's that versatility that I think you always look to, especially in January, where you think, and with COVID and that these days, you get players pull out all the time. If you can get someone that can fill in a few roles,
yeah.
So yeah, it's another one that feels like a little bit of a Jamal Lowe kind of mould again, a bit like Dembele. I'll be surprised if we got him and Dembele, for example. I think I feel like we were linked with him in the summer as well, and he's certainly someone that's been highly rated, but Huddersfield, to be fair to them, they're a team that are probably trying to knock on the door for the playoffs as well, so they'll probably be reluctant. And I'm not sure what his situation is with a contract, so they'll probably be reluctant again. I think maybe one of Koroma and Dembele. I don't see both.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if he's the next option actually.
Yeah, and also there were reports that suggested that earlier in the week Nottingham Forest were interested in the Huddersfield Town forward. He plays predominantly on the left side. The Cherries name has also been put forward, and a £2 million fee has also been cited as well. But he's another one whose contract is expiring at the end of the season. So £2 million seems quite a bit for someone that's we don't really know about. When you think of the players that we've discussed so far, they're certainly in the limelight a little bit more. He's not been on form this season as well, which surely brings that value down. But he is a versatile forward who got 8 goals in around 20 games last season. He seems to be best when he cuts in from the right, if he plays on that side. He's 23, and a lot of people, probably along with the Dembele, like you said, he's not for the now, but maybe probably not for the future. So chances this season would be few and far between. If we're looking to get over the line, we've surely got to be prioritising the first couple of players that we've been focusing on today, surely. Yeah,
maybe. I think you can almost say the same thing for Koroma as you can Dembele. I think it's a player that you feel like has got potential to grow even further, that could offer us good squad depth, and could be key for the squad this season. But it's more kind of, they're going to kick on from there, they can play out wide, they can play through in the middle, they've got a few options, and with him being out of contract, maybe that's another one that we're thinking, we could get 23, still young, so there might be potential there. Interesting one. But I think him and Dembele are quite similar, as you say. The other 3 that we previously mentioned seem a little bit more like these might get us over the line. They might be a little bit more for now. So interesting.
Let's hear from the Tanswell, shall we?
Yeah, so I think he's someone that potentially we keep an eye on. Actually, he fits a profile of what Bournemouth want, and a lot of other teams that want. He's kind of lost his way this season, but he's 23 years old. He's adaptable. He can play across the front line. He's not in the greatest time at Huddersfield, but I think it coincides with his contract situation again, expiring at the end of the season. And I've been speaking to someone close to Huddersfield, and they say at Bournemouth possibly see him as a longer-term project if they will be interested. But there is an opportunity now for not only Bournemouth but for other clubs to take advantage of Koroma's situation in this window and get him for a cut price. And also, it's because of his form. If he was doing well, I think Huddersfield might think, okay, we'll keep him to the end of the season. Cut our losses, similar to what Barry Fry's thinking. But the fact that he's struggling a little bit, I think supporters and possibly the Huddersfield hierarchy would just think, let's just let's just move him on now. Let's get a replacement in and let's sell. And as you sell, you won't get the money or the fee that you perhaps expected at the start of the season.
Yeah, very, very interesting to hear what Jacob's got to say. And if you want to watch that whole video, courtesy of Dorset Live, it's on their Facebook page actually, and also Jacob's clipped up some bits on their Twitter account as well, Cherries_live. So check that out. Link is in the description, as I say. So, Andy Carroll, mate. We talked about this on the second look. I mean, this one is we won't spend too long on this, because I think that it was just one of these names that was mentioned, chucked out in the air, but it's not going to happen, is it?
I hope not.
No.
And that's nothing against Andy Carroll's ability whatsoever.
Yeah.
My old man actually always tells me, I can't remember what game he watched, it was Newcastle against someone, and he said he one of the best players he's seen live. Like, when he's on it, he just, like, they can't cope with him. But I'm sorry, his record for injury, bless it, is so bad. I don't see the point in it, because with his age as well, and he's clearly someone that you'd be trying to get in, like we did with Kenwyne Jones, to try and get us over the line. And I just don't think he'd have enough minutes in him, mate. I really don't. So yeah, I think that would scream a little bit of desperation and panic for me. And I'd like to think, and I do believe, that's probably a bit of lazy journalism in terms of, you know, it might be what Bournemouth need, and Bournemouth can pay his wages, etc., etc. But don't see it happening. Top player, but I think his best days are behind him, and we would get him for a handful of games at best. And I just don't think it's worth it, mate. I'd rather look at someone like Kieffer Moore that might cost you a few more million, probably a little bit less wages. I think it's a no-brainer, mate.
Interesting watching the stories come in on Twitter. Dan Rose from the Echo, who's been on who's been on the pod before, actually. We must get him on again. Dan, if you're watching, we'll get you on again soon. And he's just posted an article on the Bournemouth Echo website saying that Scott Parker has admitted, and this is sort of no shit Sherlock really, that our transfer dealings could go right to the wire, and he's added that attacking areas is probably where we need some help. Of course, the window slams shut, or it just closes gently. I don't know why it has to slam, but it's 11 p.m. on Monday. It should be a gentle closing, but sometimes deals actually go through after 11 o'clock. So
yeah,
I wouldn't slam shut makes it sound like that's it. But
we
always hear deals afterwards.
I was happy to slam it shut last year when we decided to change log, and that was it. Just get it shut. Can't be bothered. But yeah, interesting there. I always find it quite. Maybe it's because it's so obvious, but it's very rare that you hear managers kind of saying what positions they're kind of looking to bolster, because then all the clubs know how desperate you are.
Well, he said, I'm not sure we're getting any closer. We are in, and we're trying to do some business. We're trying to get some bodies in and trying to get the help that we will need at this moment in time to try to get us over the line. As always, we all realise this is a difficult window to go and buy players. So yeah, like always, I think we'll have to see where we are come later on. So very, very interesting. All right, mate. What if we don't sign anyone? What if we don't sign anyone? How worried are you on a scale from 0, not worried at all, to 10? Fuck, like I'm really worried, really concerned. Where would you be if we ended up just not signing anyone?
4. I wouldn't be that bothered.
Okay.
I like us to sign players, don't get me wrong, and I feel like we need to. But mate, look at our squad. I think our squad's good. The problem is, it's always if, buts and maybes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dom Solanke goes and does his Annie.
Yeah,
but then I'm thinking, well, we're desperate at this current moment in time. He's not injured, so I'm touching wood.
Yeah.
But I think that's I think our best 11, and you know, kind of you get a few knocks here and there, but our squad, I mean, it should be good enough to compete for them top 2 spots. I really do. I mean, Fulham ain't really linked with anyone, and that's because they've kicked on, haven't they? And we were very close to Fulham. We were above them not long ago. So yeah, I don't think it's mad to think that we should be desperate, because we have got a good squad. We have got a really good squad. I mean, we let Steve Cook go because, you know, whatever anyone thinks, we didn't need him. You know, we weren't playing him much, and I mean, he's a good player. So we have got a really good squad. I appreciate the thought of, especially a front man, to go alongside Solanke, or at least take the burden off him a little bit. So don't get me wrong, I definitely want signings, but I mean, our squad's still really, really good. It is really, really good. So yeah, I think if you would ask me now, I mean, you always want them all, don't you? But ideal for me and realistic would be Tom Lawrence and Kieffer Moore. I would love them too. There's players that we haven't been linked with. I can't believe John Swift's still at Reading, mate. With their problems, I think he's kind of an attacking midfielder that gets you goals. I quite like the look of Adebayo at Luton, 24 years of age. So there's a few players around that I think we could maybe tempt, and I do think we'll get at least one or two in, mate. More, because we've got a few more. But I think we've got to appreciate we've got a really good squad. We're on a blip. We have got a good squad. It's a shame. I mean, Brooksy's been a massive miss. Stanislas. You think Smith? There's a lot of players at that, which has probably affected things. But we haven't even seen Laird or Hill yet either.
No,
so
exactly.
We'll see, mate. But
may see them on Saturday. You never know.
I think we'll get a couple in. I do think we'll get a couple in.
Right then, hope you enjoyed that little roundup. The Lowdown series, well, it's going to come to a climax on Monday after the second look with a mega stream where we're going to be taking in all of what's going on in the AFC Bournemouth transfer world. By 11 o'clock, we'll know what on earth is going on. Keep following us on Twitter if you're not already. We're at AFCB Podcast. By the way, thanks also to those that have become legends by going on the Legends wall. Graham Murray is the latest to appear on there. Thanks so much for your contribution, mate. And all of the money always goes back into the podcast and trying to make what we do increasingly better. If you want to be part of it, the link is just below the Legends wall in the bit that's coming up very shortly. But for now, make sure you subscribe.
Of course, like it,
hit
the bell, do all that stuff. I mean, you're sat here watching going, God, they say this every time. Well, that's because some of you ain't doing it. Do it. That's all we've got saying it, really.
Yeah.